Democracy Day approaches, all eyes are on the government and its agencies as they mark their scorecards of achievements over the past 3 years. While newspapers and media houses have been evaluating and assessing the government's performance in their reports and editorials, ministries and parastatals of government have also been taking stock of their gains, achievements, and future plans for sustainable democracy and economic growth. Experts say despite the bumps along the way, it is so far so good. If you were to rate the nation's democracy, what grade will you give? How much progress has this administration of President Muhammadu Buhari recorded in its efforts to move Nigeria forward? What should be top on the administration's priorities and scorecards? What areas of achievements have had the most impact on Nigerians? These and other questions we'll try to find answers to on Nigeria Today. I am Shegun Ojelade. I'm being joined in the studio to discuss the 3 years of the Buhari administration by Abdullahi Adamu Candido. He is the chairman, Abuja Municipal Area Council, AMAC. I welcome you, Chairman, to the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much, Nigerians.
He's been joined by a researcher and a legal practitioner, Philip Agbese. I welcome you to the program.
I'm glad to be with you tonight.
Now, we are beginning a series on the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari that will clock 3 years in office in just a few days from now, Tuesday to be precise. Now, Chairman AMAC, can we say so far so good in the last 3 years of the Buhari administration?
Oh yes, categorically I think so far so good. As far as we are concerned, the last 3 years has been, a fulfillment of achievements, a fulfillment of promise, and the promises have been kept. And this is simply because the president came with a 3-point agenda, and that is to fight corruption, to secure the country security-wise, and of course, ensure that we diverse the economy. And I think if we are to be fair to ourselves, not to be on the side of sentiment or what have you, I think the president has recorded successes in this regard. And so, by your question, so far, so good.
Now, Mr. Agbese, do you share the similar sentiment?
Well, for Honorable Candido and people in offices, it is always very easy for them to conclude that things are fine because they are actually advantaged persons in the society. So even when things are not good, it seems to be good for them because of the accesses that they have, either to funds, to public funds, to do the things that they do. But however, I want to say, as one of the persons who feels the impulses of government, that, well, to a large extent, we have seen drastic improvement in the ways that things are being done in the country. And to that extent, we can proudly say as Nigerians that something good is happening in our country. And we are happy with what is happening in the country. And there is actually, there are ways for improvement, but to a large extent, I think a few things have been done quite right.
Now, let's look at democracy generally. Unbroken democratic rule since 1999. That speaks volume about the commitment of governments, successive governments, and even Nigerians themselves to cling on to democracy in spite of the bumps, ups and downs. Chairman.
Actually, Nigerian democracy from 1999 to date, of course, there are bumps here and there. We must acknowledge the fact that there are hitches also here and there. But successes must be acknowledged, even as challenges are also being acknowledged. The president must be commended. I agree with what my friend just said, yes. We may be at a vantage advantage. But whatever advantage we are in, we are also Nigerians. We are feeling the pulse. We live right within the people. So we're also aware that things are likely bad, but they can be better. From 1999 to date, except if we want to be so sentimental, it has been rough up and down, here in, here out. But here is a president who came just last 3 years, after an unbroken 16 years of an administration that was led by the last, political party in power. And then here we have another party coming at a very difficult time, which every Nigerian acknowledges. Unfortunately, we are the kind of people in the society that do not appreciate performance. And we are also not patient. Right? If we are to be very patient with this administration, I want to believe, put aside sentiments. We are too sentimental in this country. And that is what is drawing us backward all the time. If we are to put aside sentiments and really be prayerful and be objective, I want to tell you that in the last 3 years, it can be equated to be a better performance than the last 16 years. But that is only if we want to be very objective. That is my point. And therefore, so far, I think we have done very well. And this country, under the president of Mr. Buhari, I think he deserves all the kudos, all the prayers and support, so that we can find a country that we can call Nigeria tomorrow. Because as it is now, if we allow things to go the way it has been, the last 16 years before the last 3 years, I am telling you, and I will not be faulty, that if we had allowed the last government to remain in power in the last 3 years we found ourselves today, we may not have a country that we can call Nigeria.
Okay, that's according to
of course.
Your opinion. Now,
of course.
Let's look at, people are likely to ask you from this, what you've said, that, okay, what excites you most about what this administration has done in the last 3 years?
Good. Be frank and focused. If we had a government like we do have now in the past, fighting the menace called corruption, the way it is being fought. Of course, you and me would all agree that corruption fights back. But if we have allowed the true tenets of democracy to take its course, and then this corruption that the president is fighting is well supported by all arms of government, both the legislative arms and the judiciary, I am telling you, because corruption cannot be fought by Mr. Buhari alone. But the effort is put in, if all arms of government support him, right? If Nigerians who call themselves lawyers, either senior advocate or whatever, know fully whether somebody is corrupt and he's been identified as a corrupt person, and he's been, taken to the part of being punished, so that Nigerians can have their own way. I'm telling you, if all arms are on deck, supporting Mr. President to fight corruption,
okay,
this singular aspect of him could have saved this country so much.
Okay. Now, let me ask you, talking about the anti-corruption fight, if you look at Nigeria and Nigerians in the last 3 years, I'm talking about our psyche now. Has anything changed in our attitude? Let's leave how the anti-corruption war is being fought. Let's look at the Nigerian society now. How do we see corruption, you know? Has anything changed in our attitude and the way, if new set of people are put in, like you, for instance, if we get to position of authority now, has anything changed in your psyche from what this administration is doing about the fight against corruption? Because that's key.
Yes, well, the people always talk about the fight against corruption in and outside Nigeria. The fight against corruption is not a physical warfare. And of course, we have institutional framework that permits the fight against corruption. Let me take you back to 2015 when the president came on board. For democracy to work, the legal system, the rules and regulations have been laid in place to guide men and women must be enforced. We witnessed a situation in 2015 when the democratic process of Nigeria was put into test in Bayelsa State. A candidate in the president's party was actually contesting the election. There were cries by people for the election to be cancelled because the candidate was losing. The president refused to intervene and said that the electoral body must do what they are supposed to do. For me, this and many other ways are the right step to fight corruption. We have equally seen situations where judges and people who participate in conducting elections were compromised either by political parties or personalities, and these issues have been laid bare on the table to a large extent. These are the ways to fight corruption. You must address the institutional issues. Nevertheless, it is the man that is alive that will enjoy the benefit of the war against corruption. And that is also another area, to a large extent, as a dispassionate Nigerian, I'll give it to the president that to a large extent he has done well. Chairman of AMA could attest to a period of time in Abuja that it was practically impossible, for citizens of this country to go about their businesses. Not even those who were in the security sector could carry out their activities. There was a time that there was total barricade of the Nigerian Police Force headquarters. The situation is no longer like that at the moment. In that area,
even the military zone too.
Yes, I remember a time a friend of mine invited me for a presentation to the army. And I said, how can I go to the army? The people who cannot even secure themselves, there are barricades everywhere. What if I go in there? However, today the situation is no longer like that. So there have been improvements in some areas, and there are also misconceptions about this improvement. Because if you go to the street...
Sorry, because of our time. I need that aspect of the people's attitude now, because they say change begins with me. Has any change occurred in the attitude of Nigerians to corruption based on the performance of this administration in the fight against corruption?
Yes, very well. If you look at the economy, and that is one area where I was actually driving at, there are misconceptions in the air, and these misconceptions are cooked, by people, who just, either those who just left government yesterday, or people who are not in, or those, better to say, those that are not even comfortable with the current trend. Let me give you a perfect example. Nigeria used to be a country where on daily basis we hear people who have not worked, they donate huge sums of money, either to charities, to churches, to mosques, or for whatever project. It is now practically impossible for anybody to dip his fingers into the public tilt, to take and misbehave the way they want to do. On the side of the average Nigerian, there have been this cry, life is difficult, life is difficult. But if you assess it further, you also realize that the president within a period of 2 years took the country through a surgical operation. Today we are all used to what it used to be, because we used to have over-bloated figures, statistics before now that tend to tell us that all is well, whereas nothing was well. That was why in 2015, when the president came on board and said that the system, must control itself, not people controlling the system, things went banana and there were cries everywhere. And if you also look at it, like I mentioned earlier, the area of the war, the fight against insurgency and insecurity, that Abuja is now safe. People cannot do their businesses and earn a living because you must be alive.
Even
to
the
be able to,
Northeast is
yes, things are better in the Northeast today. And this has to do with the way that the president has fought corruption and the way that the people who are also involved have been able to follow suit, because there's attitudinal change at every level from the top down to the bottom.
Okay, thank you. The program is Nigeria Today. We're looking at the 3 years of the Buhari administration. My two guests are still in the house. We will take a short break, but while we're on break, Nigerians will speak on the administration.
Buhari has achieved a lot, especially when you look at how he got the country. This country was seriously devastated in terms of infrastructures and whatsoever. The issue of corruption and what have you. So if you look at it from that angle, you will see that the man has achieved a lot, especially in the area of security. He has done so well in that area.
The administration have achieved a lot in terms of security. We thank God for that. Okay? So, secondly, business have been picking up. The business of the day is picking up.
Actually, in the security aspect, there is enormous result, because I was opportune to travel to Northeast to see what is happening there. On my first day, we were attacked. Many people lost their life. From Kano to Maiduguri, there was a lot of checkpoint. But now between Yobe to Maiduguri, they have only one checking point. It will take you 7 days. If you leave Kano in the morning, before you arrive Maiduguri, it will be the following day. But now, so in less than a few hours, you are in Maiduguri.
When it comes to the gain, as far as the 3 years is concerned, I think the agricultural sector has been the major aspects that I can really say there has been improvement, and which also gave me that mindset of actually going into agriculture, which I'm actually working on getting a land and then, without going for every other thing that comes with it.
Welcome back. Nigerians, they're talking about the 3 years of the Buhari administration and areas that really excites them. Well, many of our respondents there mentioned the issue of security, as we have emphasized on the program so far. But I could remember one of them talking about infrastructure, another one on agriculture. Let's talk about infrastructure. Even take a look at the situation in Abuja today. Don't let us even go far. From your constituency of Abuja, what are those specific projects that you can see and point to the administration that, okay, these are the dividends of democracy to us in the FCT?
That which even a blind man can see. Even if he cannot see, he can be, he can touch and feel it. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, who is also a product of this government, I want to believe that in assessing him infrastructurally, you discover that so much is going right now within the capital city and in the suburb, right? Most of what the minister chooses to do is to ensure completion of abandoned projects. Most of these abandoned projects were put in place from 1999 even to date. But it is in the habit of this government to ensure that, because government is a process, it's a transient thing, and the minister, believing in that fact, decided to say, oh, it is better we complete this project instead of opening up new ones. And even a blind man can see it. If you are domiciled within the capital city,
mention some of those specific projects. Okay,
even behind us here at the back of this NTA, this thing, behind it, towards Amak, that is around the area 10,
yes,
you can see flyovers, right? These are projects that have been there in the last 16 years. They were started, abandoned, money already consumed by criminals.
I also remember the rail service that
look at the railway service coming off, of course, linking to the city. These are all the beauty of completion of projects. And that is what we expected, that every government must try to do. Because if we abandon projects, who will come and do it for us? So the president under this administration, the minister, saw the beauty of completion projects, of projects, instead of, coming up with new one that will not even make any meaning.
Okay.
Look at the AYA towards this other side, or coming towards area 11 here, before the Federal Secretariat. So much is also going up there. These are the things we're only trying to capitalize on the fact that it is better you complete projects so that people's resources are not just consumed, abandoned, and then wasted.
Okay.
And I can believe you me, by the grace of God, before the end of the administration itself, in this next 1 year, so much will have been done in the capital city that Nigeria will even appreciate much more better than the last 16 years.
Okay. Now, let's look at the area of agriculture. Another of our respondents mentioned something like that. You easily remember the rice revolution going on, How do you see, okay, well, we have rice revolution, we have farmers making more money now, but people still say that the cost of living is still very high. Food is still not, maybe food is available, but the money to buy is hard to come by.
Well, what I would say is that the president, as a matter of fact, has actually impressed me in a number of ways. And I think agriculture is actually one of those areas that he has actually impressed me. I spent the last 3 years in the United Kingdom, and I know the way that government runs outside the shores of this country. And coming back to Nigeria, where you now see, because agriculture is actually a gateway to a peaceful living in any society. It is something that gives people the assurance to determine their own existence in every society. With a flourishing agricultural system, the question of nutritional gap does not exist, because people are able to produce all kinds of food and in nourishing themselves. So there's no dietary deficiency as far as a booming agricultural sector is concerned. I think before now there was a situation where the average Nigerian abandoned the traditional occupation of our people. Remember that it is the wisdom of God for us to practice the kind of lifestyle that we do here, because there's virtually no crop that is put on the ground here that will not germinate. It is in the creation of God. So a time came that Nigerians abandoned, their traditional life system. And somehow the president came. I don't know how the magic happened, but it came such that, people went back to farming, and a minute few are those who are not actually members of the working force. And before now, we're used to free money. They buy everything that they want. The other population is actually the farming population. So to a large extent, the president has been able to return the country back to the real owners, the people at the grassroots who farm and produce these goods.
Yes.
And because of the problems, the challenges that the producers now go through, I think that is responsible for the slight differences in the prices of commodities between there and now.
Okay, probably. Now, Chairman, well, the president is doing well, we thank God, but how about the subnational governments? You are a local government chairman. You are still part of the administration. Yeah. People believe that, well, president is doing well. Some state governors, well, yes, they are also doing well. But the chairman at the local council, what are they even doing with the allocation they get every month? How will you, what are those things that even in your own constituency you can point out that these are the dividends of democracy to my people in the last 3 years?
It has been so good too. I think I wouldn't wish to, praise myself and then say it is me who is doing good or bad. But I think the people outside there, the residents of Abuja Municipal Council, will bear me witness that so far in the life, I'm just 2 years in office by Sunday last week, and I think it has been so good too on our own part. The resident, like I said, can testify to what we have been able to do and what we promise to, continue doing. And by the grace of God, come Monday next week, we intend to go around the constituents to commission projects which are physical in nature. People will see it, ranging from electricity, road construction, town hall, and what have you. We have done so much for the people. And infrastructurally too, we have also touched on the life of the people.
So the local governments too, the subnational government are keen into
keen into that. And I think, of course, I'm speaking for my own area council.
Yes.
I am domiciled within the area council. I'm the chairman of Abuja Municipal Council. Okay. Municipal area council is not just the capital city you are seeing here.
Yes.
Okay. We have thousands and thousands of remote villages right inside there.
Yes. That some of us have
that
not been.
Needed government support and attention. Unfortunately, sometime in the last 15 or so years, they have not been, touched. And for me, I felt it is better we also divert, what is also some resources down to them so that they can have some, facilities too.
I'm being told at the other end that we need to round up this program. I must thank you, the chairman, Amak, Honorable Candido, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
And I thank you, my brother, Philip Agbese, for all that you've said equally on the program. Time will not permit us to say all that we need to say. So we wish ourselves the very best in all that we do.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, until we come your way tomorrow with another edition of the program, Nigeria Today. On behalf of my producer and every one of us in the studio, I am Shogun Ojelade saying good night.